So I've got some of the yarn scraps off my floor. This is a picture of it on the floor. One of my family came around and they were in the craft room and they were like, look at all those scraps of yarn on the floor. Why can't you just pick those up and make something with it? Well, I have. I've picked it up and I'm going to make something with it. Now it's going to be, I know what I'm going to make, and I'm telling you that this is going to turn out so pretty, just with bright, these little scraps. I am going to show you which a small amount of yarn, I'm going to unpick that. I was making a wave blanket and I didn't do enough stitches in my chain. So I cut that off and threw it down. But I'll unpick that and I'm going to show you something really pretty that you can make with just so little amounts of yarn. You don't need a great amount of yarn to make things. So I'm going to show you how to make something. Just do it in the same way. As long as I'm leaving enough to stitch in. Now all my ends, I'm going to fold my ends in as I'm working, so I don't need to sit and sew them in. So I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. Now that's my first stitch. Now into this little ring, I'm going to put 11 more stitches, so I'll have 12. So that's chain of 3 is 1, that one's 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull the tail tight. And I'm going to slip stitch to the top of that chain of 3. Slip stitch through. So I'm going to pull my yarn through that and trim the end. Now, a lot of people don't like doing granny squares. I'll throw that back on the floor. They don't like doing granny squares because they don't like sewing in the ends, but you can run it around and work it in when you do your next colour. Now, I'll show you how to stitch the ends in while I'm doing this. That's a bit big. Get a smaller one. So you can just stitch your ends in. Put it through a darning needle. You can use a metal one or a plastic one. And I'm just going to stitch a few stitches in just to hold it, so that when you wash it, it's not going to come out. Just tuck it under. Trim that one off. I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to work it in as I go around. So I'm going to get the next little bundle. I hope this is enough actually. So my other piece of scrap. Now what you're going to do is in between the stitches, not the top of a stitch, in between the stitches, just pull your other yarn through. I'll leave enough to either tie or pull it in, stitch it in. So I'm going to do a chain of 3. 1, 2 and 3. This should be enough if I can untangle it a little bit. Take that little knot. Just threw this on the floor. It's all the little ends that when you're making something, throw that over there. So I'm going to work this tail in. So in between each stitch, I'm going to put 2 treble crochets. Now, I'm just going to call them stitches. In the UK, it's a treble crochet, and in the USA, it's a double crochet. So yarn over and put another one in that space. And I'm going to trap my tail end in. So in between the stitches, put 2 treble crochets, or double crochets if you're in the USA. Put 2 stitches in between the yellow ones. So in between there, 1 and 2 all the way around. Just keep tucking that in. 1 and 2. I'm going to cut that off now. It's thin enough. Throw that on the floor. So put another one in there. That's 2. So I'm in between my last 2 stitches. Then I'm going to slip stitch to the top of that chain of 3. And I've still got some of my scrap yarn left. I'll cut that off. And I can throw that scrap down on the floor again. Now I can trim this yellow because we worked that in all the way around. So I'll loop through my pink and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to carry that around a little bit. I might need to sew that one in. Now I'm going to get this scrap piece of blue. See if I've got enough of this. Find an end. There we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going in between the clusters. So you've got 2 stitches in each stitch. We're going in between the clusters. And we're going to do our clusters again, but we're going to put 3 stitches in this time. So I'm going to wrap that end around a couple of times just to help to lock it in and do a chain of 3. 1, 2 and 3. Now I'm going to grab that tail and I'm going to lock it in there as well. Grab my tail. So I'm going to put 2 more into this space. 1 and 2. Make my little granny cluster. We're going to put 1 in between each of those 2 stitches. So I'm going to bring that tail around, but sort of at the back, and put a cluster in there. 1, 2 and 3. I'm trapping the yarn in at the back and around at the back. Go in between the next 2 in the space and put another cluster in. 1, 2. I'm trapping my tail ends in. 3 and around to the next one in between the clusters. Really bright, this yarn. 1, 2. So I've got 1 space left. I want to put my last cluster in. 1, 2 and 3. Just slip stitch to the top of this chain of 3 and I'll cut that off. And that's another little bit of scrap. And just pull that through and we'll work that in when we work the rest of the pattern. So now we're going to turn this pretty circle into a square. And I'm going to go in between any of the sets. It doesn't matter which one. Just go in between a set of your clusters and pull your yarn through. I'm going to pull my white yarn through. I'm going to take a tail and wrap it around a few times. 1 and 2. That'll hold it in. And we're going to chain 3. 1, 2 and 3. into the same space, we're going to put 2 more stitches to make a cluster. 1 and 2. Now what we're doing, we're going to make a corner. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the same space, I'm going to pull my tail up and tie it in with it. We're going to do another cluster. 1, just trap that tail in, 2, and 3. So we've done our first corner. Now I can cut that tail off. Now to get a square nice and symmetrical and a nice square shape, the next 2 clusters, we're going to put 3 stitches in, but we're going to do what's called a half treble crochet in the UK. That's a half double crochet if you're in the USA. So put your yarn over and go in to the space. Pull your yarn through. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the 3 of them. So that's 1 done. So yarn over and pull through. You've got 3 loops. Yarn over and pull through. That's 2 and 3. We're going to move to the next space and do the same again. 3 half treble crochets. That's 3 half doubles if you're in the USA. 1, 2, and 3. And I've trapped that in. And look how nice and straight it is. Because you're using those smaller stitches, you get a nice straight edge on your square. So now we're going to do another corner into the next space. So it's a corner, 2 sets of half treble crochets and then a corner, 2 sets of half treble crochets and then a corner, and work our way around. So the corner is the full UK treble crochets. So do your cluster. That's 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. You're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and do another cluster to complete the corner. 1, 2, and 3. So in between the next 2 clusters, we're going to do those half treble crochets. So yarn over and into the space and do 1 half treble, 2, and 3. These are half doubles if you're in the USA. Move to the next space and do the same. 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to do the next corner. So we're getting a nice square built here. So it's 3 treble crochets, 1, 2, and 3, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and put another cluster in. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to do our small clusters in this one and this one. The half trebles, or that's half doubles if you're in the USA. 1, 2, and 3, and 3 in the next one. 1, 2, and 3. Now do the last corner. 1, 2, 3 treble crochets. That's double crochets if you're in the USA. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and do your last cluster. 1, 2, and 3. Now in between, we're going to do the half treble cluster. 1, 2, go through all your loops, and the last one. 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to slip stitch to the top of this chain. And that's just with scrap pieces of yarn. Now what you can do now is you can chain 3. You can put another round on if you want. 1, 2 and 3. Now into that space add 2 more stitches. 1 and 2. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use treble crochets now. None of these small ones. Each set is going to be a granny stitch of 3 UK treble crochets, and that's double crochets if you're in the USA. Now move to the corner and we'll build a corner the same way. 3 stitches, 1, 2 and 3. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the corner do another 3, 1, 2 and 3. Now move across to the space and put your cluster in. We're doing treble crochets, that's double crochets if you're in the USA this time. 1, 2 and 3. We only use that smaller stitch to make it nice and straight on that first row. 1, 2 and 3. Work your way along. So you'll make a corner, you'll do 1, 2, 3 clusters, make a corner, 3 clusters, make a corner, and you'll just slip stitch to the end here to finish the row. So I'll get that done. I'm on my last space. And the noise you can hear is Muttley's found a bag. So I'm going to slip stitch to the top of that chain of 3 that we did. Now I've already sewed in most of my tails. Just cut that off. Just shows you what you can make with some scrap yarn. And I'll just sew in the tail to the back like I've done with the other ones. And look at that, look what you can make with some scrap yarn out your bin or off your floor, off the floor in my case. Look at that, it is so pretty. Now you can go around and around again if you want, but look at that, just with some little scraps of yarn you can make these beautiful squares. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. And if you click on the bell icon, YouTube will tell you when I put up another tutorial. Now for the tail, all you'll do is put it on to a darning needle and then just turn it around and stitch that tail in. Just stitch it in down here and you'll hide it and then cut it off. That's how you deal with the tail. So until the next time, happy crafting and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.